Mongoose Jake here with my internals guide of the Buzz Bee Agitator. Again, this should be applicable to also the Frantic Fury sold under the Adventure Force label through Walmart. This one is available, of course, through Target, as even the trigger itself designates. But what we're going to be looking at is, I'm going to go over what you see here, what each of the parts do, for those of you who aren't acquainted with the Buzz Bee internals, and my suggestions, and I will do a proper mod guide here coming up shortly. I won't go so far into depth on that, but I will just go over what each of these parts are, their importance, and what they do. And we will go ahead and get started, actually, by me showing you this front barrel piece, which of course, goes up here. It is actually solvent welded, and I did a video showing you how to remove that with the boiling method. I didn't use that. I just simply pried it off because, well, I wanted to test and see that as well. If you're concerned with the stress marks, you can always then afterwards place this in boiling water, and it will allow the plastic to reform and get rid of those marks. Now, what we have here, of course, as a magazine-fed, spring-powered pump action blaster, you have your magazine release here. That is what these parts are. You don't need to touch them. They are separate. You don't need to remove them unless you're going to, say, paint the blaster shell. You have your trigger here, which is actually tied in to the locks. This is the only lock. It's a self-contained unit. You can easily just lift that out if you don't want to have any locks restricting your control of the blaster. And you see a small bar here that connects to the dart tooth. This is a completely different design than what Nerf does. It's tied in directly to the trigger, and this dart tooth will mechanically be pulled down as you pull the trigger back. Simple design, works well. I actually prefer this over Nerf's separate unit that they do. You have the very, very long plastic priming bar, which is of some concern if you're going to use very high spring loads, say 9, 10, 12 kilograms. I would be concerned with this eventually having so much flex in it. Buzz Bee has taken consideration of that, as this screw right here with the big flared head on it, that doesn't serve a structural purpose other than as a guide for that priming bar. It helps give a little bit of reinforcement to it so it doesn't flex out. I would love to have seen a second one up here above it, but room and constraints I can understand, but it would have been nice to see another one, or just that the bar was thicker. I wouldn't have even minded if the shell had to bulge out a bit to allow a much heavier bar, because that's the only thing to be concerned with. It connects to one side of the plunger tube here, and this whole breech and plunger tube unit moves backwards as you prime the blaster with the pump grip. And then it takes, again, it's going to be the retaliator size spring located here, and it has the plunger rod here that goes inside of this guide and gets, as I bump my tripod, and it gets hooked on the catch here. Again, this is a very, very well made and well designed Buzz Bee catch system, which does not need upgraded almost ever unless you go to very, very high spring loads. But again, high spring loads I don't think that I would recommend with this priming rod. I'd say 7 or 8 kilograms, stay there, maybe 9. And if you do that, you may see some stress over time here to where it flexes and eventually fails. But 7 or 8, I've had good luck with over time on other blasters. But this one right here, again, is very simple. One other notable Buzz Bee feature that's not on Nerf is the dart guide. This actually drops down as you prime the blaster, and the breech goes backwards. And then, of course, the dart feeds up from the magazine. This holds the dart down and doesn't allow it to come up too far, and actually helps guide it into the breech a little easier, which is important because Buzz Bee breeches have a tighter fit than Nerf breeches in stock form. Of course, personally, I love it because, especially if you're going to do a brass sleeper breech, that helps guide the dart just that much better into what then is a very tight fitting breech. But get all that set, and I will do a mod guide later in the week, so hopefully it's ready for the weekend. This is Mongoose Jake with my internals guide for the Buzz Bee Agitator. Again, you can always reference this if you have a Frantic Fury as well. But this is intended to be a very useful video for the modding community, and I do hope that you find it as such, and also that you enjoyed watching it. But again, Smallest Jake, and I thank you for sticking around all the way to the end.